very fortunate at my school to have 4 teachers that volunteer their time and help out at every rehearsal. There's a lot of kids that come in sometimes we play some good music, sometimes we get lost, sometimes after school, you know how it is, we do a little bit of dancing to help out with crowd control. And so on this next tune, Peaceful Things, to be our next number, we're going to have our 4 choir assistants that help me out. And they are, this is Frazee, she's the first grade teacher. This is Rose, she's in 6th grade.
You guys made me happy. Okay, what I want you to do is turn around and face us, and we'll wave and say thank you. That was so well done. You did. You made us happy. You know what made me almost a little happier was watching Mr. Weib, because he was dancing and us, and that's who we could see as you were singing. You're so lucky that he is your director. He seems to be phenomenal. And your music was like hearing angels. It really was. It was such a wonderful sound. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming. And now I understand you're all from O'Connor. Yes. Do you say go O'Connor or anything like that? O'Connor? What do you say?
Never rest till good be better and better be best.
Great! I love that. Well, your director at O'Connor is Stephen Weib, and he's the one that helps make this happen. Do you like him? Yeah, I can tell. And he's a good dancer. He is. Well, with that, we would love it if you would sing the national anthem, and we'll all stand up and watch you do that. Could everyone rise for the national anthem? Now, Mr. Weib, is there anything you would like to add or say about your group here?
Just
You can all sit down.
To work with these kids and just talking with our choir assistants, one of the most well-behaved, ready-to-go groups that we've had in a long time. The other ones were great, but this was and it was really a joy to work with, so privileged and humbled. And we'd like to thank the governing board, the superintendency, Patrick Walsh, the creator from Performing Arts, and Scott Berger from Music Education, for Music Education Coordinator, for inviting us over here to sing for you. It's been an honor and privilege, and we absolutely enjoyed it.
I think it was our pleasure.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you. And I live near your school, so I'm going to come by and see you. Okay? Yay. Yes, I do. I walk by your school sometimes, so I'll come see you. Okay. With that, we are going to start by watching a short video. Afterwards, we're going to stand for a moment of silence, and after that, we will start our meeting by calling it to order. So that's the order of the upcoming events. So while we watch the video, you guys can tiptoe out, and you don't have to watch this boring meeting at all. Okay?
Welcome to the Mesa Public Schools Governing Board meeting. We appreciate your interest in the district. The 5 elected governing board members volunteer countless hours and serve without compensation. The president and the clerk of the board are elected in January. Under state law, the governing board may only discuss and vote on matters that are on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Agendas are posted a minimum of 24 hours in advance on the Mesa Public Schools website and in the Curriculum Services Center. Copies of tonight's agenda are located in the lobby. Members of the public may speak to the agenda items. If you wish to comment on any agenda item, please fill out a request to address the board form. These forms are also located in the lobby. Before the item is discussed, please submit the completed form to the assistant to the governing board. Members of the public will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. Once recognized by the governing board president, please state your name. We ask that all speakers show respect and courtesy to others. During the second regular meeting of each month, the agenda will include a call to the public, which is an opportunity to speak to the governing board about a school district matter that's not on the agenda. Please submit a request to address the board form to participate in the call to the public. If you want the governing board to consider adding an item to a future agenda, you may submit your request in writing to the board at least 5 working days before that meeting. The superintendent or the governing board president will consider your request. Thank you for your attendance and involvement in tonight's meeting.
That seems like the perfect time to run that video. For those of you who would like to sit in a chair, there's some open seats if you'd like to come in. And those of you who are exiting, thank you for coming to watch your children sing for us. We really enjoyed it. The rest of you can come sit down and we'll get started. As soon as it quiets down just a little bit, we're going to have that moment of silence. So we'll give it a couple more seconds here for people to get settled. That sounds better. Okay, we're going to, in accordance to Governing Board Policy BDDH, public participation at board meetings, please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please remain standing. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, which is going to be started by Dr. Pete Lesser.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you may be seated, and we can call the meeting to order. Okay, thank you. We are going to get started then with our study session. And the first item on, with our regular meeting. And the first item would be the review of the minutes, to have approval for the minutes of our regular meeting held January 22nd, 2019. Do I hear a motion for that?
I move that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting held January 22nd, 2019.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next, personnel requests. Dr. Holmes.
Madam President, members of the board, we're asking your approval this evening of the certificated and classified personnel requests, including the addendum.
Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval of the certificated and classified personnel request, including the addendum.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Madam President, if possible, I would like to introduce 2 fine individuals that the board just approved. And there are 2 principals, Gabby Buckley and Cassie Spurlock. Would you come to the front? And this is nice. You guys have each other, so you're not standing alone looking out into the crowd. Miss Buckley is currently an assistant principal at Dobson High. She earned her bachelor's and master's degree from Grand Canyon University and a second master's from Northern Arizona University. A product of the Dobson community, we congratulate Gabby as the next proud principal of Dobson High School. And if I do recall that you do have family, so I'm going to ask them to come up in just a minute and we can maybe do a picture. It's very important we recognize the family as well. It's definitely a support team. Our next new principal is Cassie Spurlock. She is currently a behavior specialist with Kyrene Elementary School District. She earned both her bachelor's and master's degree from Northern Arizona University. She will be the new principal of the K-7 Special Education Program currently contracted out to the Mesa Center for Success. We look forward to having the program return to the Mesa Public Schools, and Cassie will be an outstanding new principal. So we welcome Cassie. So I would love for family members, if you're here supporting either Cassie or Gabby, to come to the front and get a quick picture. So I do know that we have supporting family members. Come on up. And on a fun note, are you exiting? Okay, got it. Okay, I'm like, don't leave. We got to get pictures. Fun note, I heard that we got dressed up for the occasion, and we're so proud to have new haircuts as well. Picture time. Miss Buckley, would you like to say a few words?
Sure.
She'll do her Grammy speech.
I am absolutely so proud to be the new principal at Dobson High School. I am a product of Mesa Public Schools, and nothing could bring me more joy than to become a leader in this district. And so I am so enthusiastic and excited about where we are headed, and I can't wait to celebrate Dobson High School at future meetings.
Yay, congratulations. Cassie, do you have family with you? Oh, okay. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to quickly say I'm so excited to come back to Mesa. I started my very first year of teaching at Salk Elementary, and I'm very excited to be back. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the governing board for your approval, and I'm excited to get to work.
Glad to have both of you. Welcome, welcome to your new positions. With Mesa Public Schools, the greatest place to work. Okay, item number 7 is our consent agenda. All items listed will be considered as a group and will be approved with one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda items?
I move to approve the consent agenda items.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. And now we go on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Conley.
Thank you, Madam President, Clerk Sears, members of the board. It's my pleasure to provide our superintendent's report. We always like to start with why we're here, a wonderful picture of graduates, which really gets into our promise of who we are in Mesa Public Schools, and that is that every student is known by name, served by strength and need, and graduates ready for college, career, and community. In this picture, you see Melanie Edwards, specific learning disability specialist at Irving Elementary School. Melanie received the Arizona Tash Legacy Award, recognizing her work in special education for advocating inclusive practices in Arizona schools. Her principal, Penny Briney, shares that Melanie's passion is the key to her success and our children's success in the inclusion program. Whether she is helping the Irving community or supporting others, I think I clicked, I'm sorry about that, across the district to incorporate effective inclusion programs at their school, Melanie is a force to be reckoned with. She's a true champion for students. Congratulations to Melanie, and thank you for all that you do to ensure students have the tools and opportunities necessary to reach their goals. Our vision, unprecedented excellence in education. In this picture, you will see that we are celebrating career and tech ed, so technical education, and which raises awareness and the role that CT has in preparing students for college, career, and community. Mesa Public Schools offers 23 cutting-edge programs that help students prepare for high-skill and demand careers ranging from agricultural science to welding. And I will tell you that we had a wonderful visit from the governor today at Westwood High School in celebration of CTE Month. And he was able to see our programs in action along with Mayor Giles and other members of the community. So just a big shout out to not only Westwood, but all of our career and tech ed programs. They're truly remarkable in preparing our students. Our student outcomes and goals as we look forward to 2023, 90% proficiency for 3rd grade reading, 90% proficiency in 8th grade math, 90% proficiency in 11th grade English language arts, 95% graduation rate, looking that all of our students meet their growth targets annually and that all of our students are socially and emotionally strong, prepared, and supported. Here are our board and collective commitments. Again, just highlighting the work that you do each and every board meeting, but every day to work collaboratively for the good of our students and student learning. I had the wonderful opportunity to focus on learning over the last couple weeks ago. I serve on the ASCD Legislative Policy Committee, and offered me the opportunity, to speak directly to our Assistant Secretary of Education, Frank Brogan, as well as the education staff for both the House and the Senate side with the Committee of Health, Education, Labor. And it was just a wonderful way for me to learn about the upcoming federal budget and the policies that they're looking at making. So a couple of big ideas for the board to be aware of, and that is that the Higher Education Act is in reauthorization. And so you're thinking, well, what does HEA have to do with our K-12? Well, it has to do directly with our teacher quality program and the support that we have to ensure that our teachers are prepared at the level that they need to be prepared for. So a lot of good things coming out of that. The other thing that's important this year on the federal policy is our CAPTA, which is our Child Abuse Protection Act, and there is some new reauthorization that is going through in dealing with our children that are born addicted, specifically to opioids. So there's some new protections for our babies that are being born. And finally, there was a lot of communication around ESSA and the implementation of ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, specifically around special education. Special education continues to be a topic at the federal level, and it really gets down even into our local level of what we're seeing with an increased number of students qualifying for special education. So thank you for allowing me to travel. This is a legislative committee that all of my expenses are paid for, and so it's just a great opportunity to be able to guide the policy for not only our school district but the state as well. Professional learning communities, that was focus on learning. The next big idea is building collaborative teams, and I want to thank all of our community partners and supporters who came to the district downtown office on January 30th for our first ever food truck festival. I know it sounds important that why in the world are we celebrating with our food trucks? 20% of all the sales went to Mesa United Way, which resulted in hundreds of dollars being raised to help families in our community. So Biscuit Freaks, Pura Vida, Ziki, When Pigs Fly food truck served delicious food, and it definitely was the talk in our ASC building. So thank you. A big shout out to our City of Mesa, Mesa Chamber of Commerce, who made it very successful. Focusing on results, congratulations to our district spellers who have qualified for the Regional Spelling Bee. Students from 51 schools participated in the District B, which was held January 26th at the Franklin Brimhall Elementary School. Pictured is Peyton Rule, an 8th grader at Stapley Junior High, who was declared champion with the word anomaly. I'd like to see how many of us could spell that one correctly. Chrisman Elementary 6th grader Victoria Weister took second. Rounding out the top 5 were Eagle Ridge Enrichment Program 8th grader Caden Holiday, Hermosa Vista Elementary 6th grader Lily Ha, and Smith Junior High School 7th grader Robin Soden. These students will go on to compete in the Regional B on February 23rd, which will also take place at the Franklin at Brimhall campus. Joining our top 5 in the Regional B are O'Connor Elementary, Aiden Cole, Porter Elementary, I'm turning the page, Keeson Finkel, Franklin Junior High, Stanley Fuller, Franklin East, Ian Johnson, and Hughes Elementary 4th grader Amy Nilsson. These are our 4 guiding questions of our professional learning communities, and today we held one of our leading learning meetings with all of our principals, and just continue to check out question number 1, and that is looking at the knowledge, skills, and dispositions that our children need, and that is, what do our students need to know? Finally, we are getting into an update on strategic planning, and that is that we have a consultant that has been working with us and excited around the portrait of a graduate with strategic planning. A lot of that work starts with talking with our staff and our principals and communities. So just continuing to look forward to that work to help align and guide our learning for our students. And also master planning. I love this picture because you're thinking, what in the world does this have to do with master planning? And that is that the learning environments for our students to be engaged, to be able to feel safe, is extremely important to the learning outcomes that we have in Mesa Public Schools. That concludes my superintendent report. Thank you.
Conley. Now we'll move on to have members of the board report on what they've been busy doing in the last couple of weeks. You want to start with Jenny?
Sure.
Did I startle you?
No, I'm happy to start.
Okay.
Because I've visited some great campuses in the last couple of weeks, I had the opportunity to spend some time on Whittier's campus with their principal, Andrea Lang Sims, and see some of the great learning that was going on there. And I was impressed with the history and the community support. It was interesting to me that I felt that's a school not far from where I live, even though it's not my children's neighborhood school. And I was surprised at how many of the parents I saw volunteering on on campus, as well as their instructional aides, their office staff, were people I knew from my neighborhood. And I thought that was contributed to a great family and community feel on their campus. And I was impressed. I found some, their principal showed me where they have some really great windows boarded up. We need our physical facilities people there to go onboard some really great historic windows in their library that are beautiful. And I thought, oh, I would love to be able to figure out how to restore those. That's beside the point. Okay, and then I also got to spend some time at Lincoln Elementary with Josh Henderson, and their campus is also lovely. They have an A+ visit coming up, and their teachers are engaged, and that community is kind of a unique community in our district. It's bordered by train tracks and that kind of industrial area along Center all the way up to Southern, and so they're kind of boxed in with one little area, but it's a community that cares very deeply, and they are making great strides in what they're doing. And I have to say that principal is energetic and enthusiastic, and you can tell by their marquee they had a family dance, a family barbecue, all the activities coming up, that they really value getting people on their campus. And I just wanted to thank Lincoln for having me there. And then finally today, I think I heard my favorite quote of the week when I attended the Leading Learning meetings this afternoon. And Dr. Forless put up, "Every student deserves a great teacher, not by chance, but by design." And they talked about that for a while, and I thought of what that means to me as a parent and a board member, and it was interesting to hear the high school principals talk about what that meant to them and how every child does deserve a great teacher, and you should know that the district is working to making sure that happens every time and in every classroom. So it was a great few weeks with board activities. I appreciated it. Thank you.
Well, I'm the new member on the board, so I have a lot of catching up to do. So this past few weeks, I was at Rhodes Junior High. I was included in a program for 6th grade teachers, and it was hosted by Principal Patty Christie and their Title I specialist, Kathy Bowden. Rhodes teachers explained their personalized, project-based, cross-curricular learning approach. And 6th grade teachers from Washington and Guerrero and Redbird Elementary visited classrooms and talked with their former students who revealed that they liked their junior high, even though it was hard, but they knew if they were being prepared for high school. Last week, I also attended the Arizona School Counselors Conference, where hundreds of caring professionals, and many of them were from Mesa, met to learn from each other how to best serve the mental health needs of our students. And I spent quite an informative morning with Kathy Eustace and Alan Quee at the Red Mountain Center for Early Education. These dedicated educators helped me better understand our pre-K inclusion efforts. But then it seems like all I did was AVID. I got schooled on AVID. AVID, which stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. Big thanks to District Coordinator Lindsay Linoff, who taught me AVID's history, its program goals, and what the heck Y-Core is and why it matters in every lesson. I visited every classroom at Jefferson Elementary, an AVID showcase school with its outstanding principal, Genesee Montes. I observed student-led tutorials in Melissa Martin's class at Red Mountain High School. And I spent a morning at the AVID showcase at Adams Elementary School, where teachers from all over the state witnessed great teaching and learning which happens daily at that school. A big shout out to Principal Stephanie Montes and her wonderful teachers and staff. You did us proud. In each of these AVID schools, students were engaged and, yes, excited about learning. Students as young as first graders were leading civil discussions and taking ownership of their learning while valuing and respecting their classmates. Each school has worked to create a caring, I call it a community of scholars, where expectations are high and student needs are met. I was very impressed and encouraged by the great things that I saw at these schools this week.
I just have to applaud. That was so good.
You could do the superintendent's report. That was amazing.
I'm learning.
I'm going to change my seat order next time.
Come sit by me on stage.
Okay, got it. Well, you know, the school visits and actually meeting with the community, that's part of what we do as well, because all of us, I can say, have sat in those seats for our children, cheering. So this has been a good time for me to actually hear what's important to parents and the community. So unfortunately, I've had a lot of lunches and coffees, and I say that because both is not like the best for my health right now. So I'm working on it, because I started my New Year's resolution and it hasn't got off to a good start yet. But do know I still love dessert, so I'm never going to give that up for a New Year's resolution. I had the good fortune to come and to see a program that I don't know what it's called. So between the curriculum, it was about social studies and equity. It was a class that happened in this room, and it talked about the social studies and where we're going with social studies. So that was very interesting to me, and it was just like a drop-in. Sometimes I roam, so I just kind of pop into things in the district, and if I'm here to do something else, I just sit in and I look like I belong. So I appreciate that the district that we just fit in and have a good time with each other. So that was a very good class to see how we're evolving. And I actually saw a new version of maps of the world, and how that there isn't the map that we're used to seeing isn't the most accurate map that exists. So it's always good to learn and continue learning. So that was very interesting. And being that I'm very grateful for the new teachers that we have just started, that were educated at those other Arizona State schools, I'm really still a diehard Sun Devil. So thank you for creating more Sun Devils in our community. Thank you so much. And I'm unapologetic about that. So when I look at AVIT, I'm excited about the AVIT programs that we're having this summer because of the hard work that our teachers are doing with AVIT. We're becoming a nationwide model for that. So we're continuing to increase that opportunity for our kids over the summer. And also a big shout out to Rita Rodriguez, who actually has done some extraordinary work, and that was acknowledged this year, but also continues to be acknowledged in our state for helping get our foster kids into First Star, which help them be successful in their journey. So those are the things that I've been involved in, been very passionate about, and always talking about Mesa and our students and everything that we do to help them be successful and go full circle. But most of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for your love and support and commitment to the district and allowing us to serve you as governing board members.
Well, it's exciting to serve on the board and to have the opportunity to be part of and work with the district. This last little bit, I had the opportunity to work with the committee that is working on the master plan, to read seven different proposals from vendors on helping us and assisting us putting together the master plan, and then going through the process with the committee then of vetting which one of those seven we would then call back for a second round. And we're looking forward to that then later this month as we put together then a plan that we can work with in supporting our needs, both from a bonding and as well as channeling and understanding where our resources should go. Grateful for the opportunity I had earlier that I didn't report on earlier, but to attend Mountain View High School for a winter sports assembly, to see the enthusiasm that takes place in one of those events. Student-led, student high energy, and I've had the opportunity to attend a number of high schools through the years, and they're always fun to attend and be part of. Then finally, continue to work on things to shore up the Mesa Public Schools Foundation and different efforts on that front.
We don't usually work this hard. It's just that there were 3 weeks between now and the last board meeting, right? We're not competing about how much we do in between. We all have busy lives. We have jobs. We have other commitments. So some of us get to get out there more often than others, but we're all doing good things, and I'm so proud of our board. We have a great board. I had the privilege to go to Charlottesville, Virginia. We went on a trek to go look at some schools there to see how an innovative school setting looked, because we're looking at some great innovative ideas. We have one school called Zaharis Elementary, if you're familiar, who's doing they're doing a great innovative idea, and it's been very successful. It's based on inquiry, where if you ever are interested, we'd be more than happy to share that. Dr. Forlis was, and also Mike Oliver, the principal there. But while we were there, let me tell you the journey. The journey was rough. Do you remember the polar vortex that hit? Well, we were there. And that was probably the coldest weather other than the day I had my wedding reception, that was colder. Nobody came because everything was too cold, but It was very, very cold. We got stuck in Chicago. But we did eventually get to Charlottesville and saw some great examples of what they did there. They actually have charter schools there that are run by their school district. They're run very differently than here. They don't compete with their charter school. It's different, but it's in the same district. And I didn't know about that. That was new. I had to figure that out. And they had a program called MESA. And it was the acronym for Andy, Dr. Forlis.
Mathematics, Engineering, Science Academy.
Yes. And that pull-out program was for high school students who would go and do hands-on projects. When we went in, they were doing a project where the teacher was actually trying to figure out because they were having some problems. But so it was a project where the teacher was learning along with the children, and these aren't children; they were young adults. They were very, very gifted kids and fun to watch. So we took our ideas from there. We came away from there having some great insights, and it was a great experience. It was fun to be with members of our school district. We took a principal, Mike Oliver, and 2 of his teachers. We took Andy Forlis, and we took Jennifer Eccles from our distance learning. So that was a fun 3-day trip. In our study session, I guess we mentioned that Dr. Conley and I were able to meet with members of our community in regards to talking about support for mental health. There was the mayor was there, John Giles, as well as representatives from ASU and Benedictine University and others. Somebody who was there visiting to share some of the ideas of what has been done in school districts that he came from. So we're excited to hopefully see that expand and get the community involved in helping to be of service to our students as a whole child, including mental health. So that was an exciting event for me. I visited several schools, Skyline being one of them, got to see their CTE where they car mechanics and diesel and welding. Wow, they have a pretty professional looking building where they have those classes. That was fun. Today, PLC, that in everything in public school is an acronym. So PLC is Professional Learning Center. Same thing that Jenny went to today. I went to the elementary schools and junior high study session, and they are principals that are talking about and learning more about how to be more valuable on their campuses to their teachers and their process of being leaders in how to teach and be more effective as teachers. So as a support to their teachers. And they were students today, and it was fun to see them as students. And that was it for me. And thank you everyone for sharing. Okay, the next item on our agenda is recognitions. Yes, recognitions, school recognitions.
Madam President, Clerk Sears, and members of the board, if you'll meet me down in the front of the dais, we will do this evening's recognitions. We are going to highlight Rhodes, Shepherd, Red Mountain, and Westwood Schools of Excellence. We remain to be a leader in fostering good citizenship among our students. For a 4th consecutive year, Mesa Public Schools has received the most Arizona Department of Education Civic Engagement Award statewide. This year, 17 Mesa schools received the coveted award. Earning the School of Merit designation are Mendoza Elementary School, Fremont, Keno, and Taylor Junior High Schools, and Mountain View High School. Our schools of distinction are East Valley Academy, Mesa Academy for Advanced Studies, Carson and Franklin Junior High Schools, and Dobson, Riverview, Skyline, and Superstition. Tonight, we're excited to welcome Rhodes and Shepherd Junior High Schools and Red Mountain and Westwood High Schools, which earned the School of Excellence distinction. This is the highest level of civic engagement recognition from the Arizona Department of Education. Will Principal Patty Christie and Lindsay Renoth, Science Teacher and Civic Engagement Committee Chair, please come forward? So I'm going to have you stand this right here. Awesome. Thank you. From Shepherd Junior High School, we'd like to welcome Principal Renee Kennedy, Team Leader Jennifer Chilton, and Social Studies Teacher Larry Johnson. Would you please join us at the front? Let's welcome Red Mountain High School. Principal Jared Ryan could not join us this evening. However, representing the Mountain Lions are Assistant Principal Britt Gardner, Social Studies Teacher Jeremy Jones, and students Ani Scholes and Brooke Baumgarter. Would you please come up? Bring that up, scoot down a little bit. Can you scoot down? Awesome. Finally, our Westwood Warriors, would you please join us? Principal Chris Gilmore, seniors Maitri Bhakta and Anika Reimers, would you please join us? This honor recognizes schools with environments and cultures where students have the opportunities and tools to engage in civic learning. Students develop an appreciation of democratic processes, liberties, and responsibilities. Rhodes, Shepherd, Red Mountain, and Westwood will join all civic engagement schools at an Arizona Department of Education awards ceremony on March 1st. We would like one of our students to share about the importance of this award. Maitri, would you please come up and share the importance of what this designation means? Come on up.
Talk about the designation of the award. Okay. So the designation of this award tells us how well we're doing at our school and how we can improve. Westwood, for example, does many things. We have our student council and all our clubs that promote leadership and civic engagement, and we love to continue that and just continue working on that. And even though we have the highest distinction, we obviously still love to improve.
See you again. It's been so long. Thanks for coming tonight. Thank you. Yes, you can. Sorry.
She put you on the spot. You did great.
You were awesome. Okay, I'm sorry, my notes. Up next are our spotlight recognitions, which gives our community a deeper look at how our schools and departments ensure student success and learning. Our first spotlight is Patterson Elementary School. Principal Noni Sunvi, please join me at the front, and we're going to watch a short video about your school.
I am the incredibly proud principal, Noni Sunvi. Patterson is filled with an incredibly positive culture.
As kids come to school, you are greeted with a teacher by hello or good morning.
And we continue to promote that throughout the day.
Kiss your brain, kiss your brain. That was good.
Right, very good.
We have a promise to meet students academically, socially, and emotionally in all areas. And we start by focusing on the positives that students bring to the table and then working together collectively as a team to work on those areas where students may have a need.
I think Patterson is the best school because it is a happy place. Patterson has awesome staff members, teachers, and the best principal.
One of the most amazing parts about Patterson is the staff that serve our students here. They believe very, very strongly in the culture that we provide here and in the experiences that we have for students.
Patterson also has lots of fun activities I enjoy.
Patterson is incredibly proud to have won America's Healthiest Schools Award. We are consistent in providing activities that are healthy and active for students. Patterson was honored through the City of Mesa when we participated in a bag recycling program. We were able to have a tree donated to our campus as well as a recycled bench, and through one of our amazing playground aides, she suggested that we create an area for students that's a friendship bench, and they're able to go and find a friend, or if they're feeling like they need someone just to talk to, or they can't find anyone to play with, that's a place where students know that they can go. Collectively, we're so much better than we are alone.
Thank you, Dr. Conley. From the moment you step on the Patterson Elementary campus to the moment you leave, you'll encounter a respectful, responsible, and safe community of learners who take great pride in their school. Every day we uphold our promise by providing the best academic, social, and emotional learning environment for all children. Christopher Huddlemeyer, 5th grader, please join me at the podium. Since the first day of school, Christopher has put his best foot forward. He's an inquisitive, active participant in classroom discussions. His strong work ethic has allowed him to move up to a higher level of learning in class. He always has a smile on his face and inspires others with his very kind heart. I am honored to recognize you, Christopher, as our outstanding student. Christopher, please stand in front of the table to your right here so we can celebrate other members of our community as well. Our next honoree could not... Our next honoree could not be with us tonight, but I'd like to say a few words about our fantastic volunteer extraordinaire, Crystal Bancroft. Crystal always goes above and beyond to support our school. No project is too big and no idea is off the table. Her work is impeccable and she ensures that she gives her very best in honor of our students. She is simply amazing in all that she does and that she creates for our community. I'm honored to recognize Crystal as our volunteer extraordinaire, and we will be sure to honor her back on campus in the next few weeks. The next honoree, Janet Bleeker, 5th grade teacher. Will you please join me on the podium? Janet is an innovator, a risk taker, and a collaborator. She tirelessly supports our entire community. She is realistic but hopeful, holding high expectations for all, including herself. Teaching is Janet's calling, and it shows in all that she does. She cares deeply about our students beyond their academics. I am honored to recognize you, Janet, as our educator who makes a difference. And last but certainly not least, Ann Kopicki, health assistant. Will you please join me at the podium? Ann's vivacious and infectious personality inspires everyone at Patterson. She always makes you see the bright side of things. Her sense of humor can cheer up any student or staff member, and she often greets them with a, "Hey, bud," and a big hug. Students love to come visit Ann just to say hi, and our families know that she's there for them too. I'm honored to recognize you, Ann, as our customer service champion. Oh, thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Conley and the board, for giving us the opportunity to shine a spotlight on Patterson Elementary School. Congratulations.
If you are here from the Patterson community, would you please stand up so we can recognize all of you? Thank you. Awesome. Our next spotlight is Washington Elementary School. Will Principal Michelle Grimaldi please join me at the front while we watch a short video?
Washington is one of those best kept secrets. We're a smaller school set in a neighborhood. We are A+, which is by the Arizona Educational Foundation. Our staff relishes in the job that they have. They are true professionals that truly want students to perform academically. They are a staff that just does what it takes to get the job done. What's nice is we offer different ways that different students can get the standards in what suits them for their learning style. For example, you would see some students that use small groups and work in partners.
It's haunted. It's wonderful in the morning.
Some classrooms that are very direct instruction oriented. Inquiry styles where students sort of have a problem of practice and then work on that. You would see students that are able to use writing to understand their learning better. Some are oral learners, so they are able to test orally. Washington offers a variety of after-school sports for kids. We have a group of 5th and 6th graders that help us out on our playground at lunch recess. They offer a variety of games that the smaller students come and participate in, and it's kind of twofold. It helps our older kids be leaders on campus, but it also helps keep our smaller kids busy at recess and happy and healthy and safe. We have just a wide variety of ways that we reach students. All right. Thank you, Dr. Conley. Boy, it is odd hearing your voice. It's something. All right. Washington Elementary is an amazing school with a positive environment for learning. We are a school of opportunity for our community. The staff provides a caring environment to help students be the best that they can be. As a school, we have pride in delivering sound instructional strategies to prepare our students for the future. And we are honored this evening to highlight some of our Washington family. At this time, Charlie Slater, will you come up? Come on up. Come here, Sunshine. This is Charlie. Charlie is a soft-spoken 6th grader who does everything she can to support our school. She mentors new students and is a helpful presence in her classroom. Charlie is thoughtful in the questions she asks and the work that she submits to her teacher. She is a wonderful mentor in our recess program. You saw a small cameo. And shows all the signs of a future rock star teacher. Charlie, I am honored to recognize you this evening as our outstanding student. Congratulations. At this time, I'm supposed to tell Charlie to stand over there, but I want her right next to me for the next one because I want a little bit of space between me and the next teacher. Scott Egan, will you come up? You can't see his face, but he was saying, really? On the way up. Scott is both a calm presence and a dynamic teacher at Washington. He's amazing at posing questions so that students better understand heart rate, nutrition, and exercise. Students love his positive attitude and kindness. Scott also provides activities beyond his teaching responsibilities. He has a recreation room, after-school sports, he helps with student council, and he is our talent show extraordinaire. Scott, I am so very proud to recognize you this evening, and we got you. those little lies are not so bad. All right, Dora Medina, will you come on down? Just like The Price is Right. Come on, Dora. Dora is one of our incredible instructional aides. There is nothing Dora can't do, whether she's in the classroom, the workroom, the office, the crosswalk, the cafeteria, the playground. I'm telling you, she does it all. This employee gets the job done. Students and staff enjoy her great sense of humor and sweet disposition, even on the most challenging days. And you've been in cafeterias, I'm sure. She is a positive presence and calm for our students. I am honored to recognize you, Dora, as our customer service champion. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to recognize our Washington family.
If you're here from Washington Elementary, would you please stand up to be recognized? Yay. Oh, you guys are waving from the other side. That's cute. That's awesome. Our last spotlight of the evening is on the Financial Services Department. Will our Chief Financial Officer, Danny O'Brien, please join me at the front as we watch a short video about your department.
I'm Daniel O'Brien, Chief Financial Officer here at Mesa Public Schools, and welcome to the Financial Services Department. We have a couple small departments within the business department, so we're really here to ensure that things like budget, POs, requisitions, payroll, and dollars are going directly to the school so that they can support the mission and vision of the school. We're also a very supportive department, so we have a couple people in the department that go out to schools. They train secretaries, they train principals on the procedures. I go out and meet with the principals as needed, and really just trying to engage them so that they know that we're here to fully support them in all their needs. Every other week for payroll, we process over 10,000 paychecks between subs and everybody else. We do over 50,000 POs and requisitions throughout the year. We enjoy it, we have fun with it, just helping support that teacher, helping support that student, know that we're making a difference every day. And over the past 30 years, we have received a reward for not only excellence in financial reporting, but also for our work and our readiness of our comprehensive annual financial report. Thank you, Dr. Conley. They don't usually give the finance guy moments to talk, so it's kind of special up here. The Financial Services Department provides financial support to the schools and departments within Mesa Public Schools. Our team ensures all budgets and state requirements are met by the district. Tonight, I'd like to honor two members of my team. Lori McGee, would you please like to come up? Lori is our accounting supervisor. Lori uses her skills and expertise to support schools and departments. She delivers quality and detailed work every day. Lori successfully collaborated with Maricopa County in a transition to a new financial software lately, ensuring that all their components seamlessly work with our system. I'm honored to recognize you, Lori, as our employee who makes a difference. Laura Weidinger, would you please like to come up? Laura is our federal and state grants supervisor. She provides excellent service and support for the district's grants departments. She ensures budgets and accounting appropriate for each grant. In monthly meetings, she and her team carefully determine the best use of the grant funding for schools and student success. I'm honored to recognize you as our customer service champion. Thank you.
No, no. Thank you to our financial services team for all the many things that you do for our schools and students. Our Spotlight recipients receive a certificate of appreciation and an Amazon gift card for personal use from the Mesa Public Schools Foundation. Madam President and board members, this concludes our recognitions for this evening. We will take a very short recess before continuing tonight's meeting. Oh yeah, we forgot the window clean. Window.
No, it's not. Oh, there we go. Next item on our agenda is item number 11, discussion on fiscal year 2020, the budget. And I'm assuming that's, there you go.
For our public to be able to see. So as we move into fiscal year 20, as you know, we have a need for our override to be able to meet our financial obligations. And as we go through that, I want to start with what the review is for fiscal year 19. We were able to add 40 teacher contracts this last fiscal year to reduce our class sizes. The majority of those 40 teacher contracts went into our elementary schools. So there were a few in our secondary schools, but majority of those went into our elementaries. We also know that there were additional funds to increase our teacher salaries to the 10%. The governor, of course, moved forward and established a budget for an increase for teacher salaries, but it didn't cover our amount to be able to give the 10% for our teachers. And so I use the analogy that we basically had to borrow from our savings to put into our checking account, which is our next bullet around our DAA. So we had to move money out of our DAA budget, which can be used for a variety of different priorities, including curriculum. It can also be used for capital, but it can also be used for salaries, and that's what Mesa Public Schools decided to do to be able to honor that 10% increase. As we look ahead for this next year, we also know that we have a classified minimum wage increase that is required in January of 2020, and also just looking at our rate of inflation. We also have the loss of our override election, which is causing that $11.8 million deficit. As we look, however, at what we need to be able to continue to do to support our students' learning and to be able to empower our staff to provide that education for students, we're continuing to look at our early childhood, preschool, continuing to lower our K-2 class sizes, and then to also look at our elementary equity model that I've been able to share with you a couple different times, but we have a lot more details for you tonight. And of course, being able to compensate our staff. You see this, and I really appreciate this visual, because as we look at the idea of equality versus equity, equity is breaking down all of those barriers that our children come into our different school settings. And so what that looks like is that this is a phasing in, and that we start with a ratio based on school enrollment, student enrollment. We then also look at adding on for an equity model. So we specifically look at subgroups, special education, we look at our Title I poverty schools, and then continuing to reduce our class sizes. We do have a closer amount for the counselors, and that is to be able to meet the social emotional needs of our students, as well as provide support for our staff. And it's right now about 35.5 additional counselor positions in our elementary schools. We also will be taking over, which was a contract out for some of our day treatment for our Mesa Public School students, and it will reduce our out-of-district private day treatment costs of about $2.5 million. As we look ahead around phasing this in, the deans and assistant principals come into play around this equity model, but we also want to be very thoughtful around being able to provide support directly into the classroom with classroom teachers. Timeline of where we are, looking at a skeleton budget, which really is going to hand off to the next level for Scott Thompson and Danny O'Brien to be able to look at what that budget is. Questions about that? A bunch.
Like, I love all these things. How are we going to pay for them?
We're handing it over.
Is that what he's?
That's what
are
he's
you
going to
tell
hand
us
over.
How we're paying it for it?
Yep, he is. Do you need that one? Sorry about that.
Good evening, board. Twice in one night. We're all lucky today. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Conley, Mr. Thompson. Today, I'm just going to do kind of our first shot at next year's budget. So kind of just a high level. As you know, the state is still working through legislation and through the budget. So what I like to start off with every year is this is a living, breathing document. All the information in here, I can promise you will change. And so for the fiscal guy, that doesn't make him feel very comfortable because he likes to know the numbers. But that's just what happened as we go through the process. Things are going to happen. Bills are going to change. You know, as we saw last year, things change all the way right up to the end. So just a few items that we'll go through, and I'm sure questions will be ready for it. So I'm ready for as many as I can take. Just real quickly here, let's see if I can get that. A few things that we do know. ASRS, or Arizona State Retirement, will be increasing by 0.31%. This is an estimated cost to the district of approximately $751,000. Remembering that this cost is an increase both on the employer and the employee side, since we pay equal amounts on both sides. As Dr. Conley just mentioned, we do have the minimum wage increase going up to $12 an hour on July 1st of 2020. We may, and I say we may because it is in law, but again, the budget isn't done, but we do have the governor's 20x20 legislation that he passed last year. So next year, certified staff, teachers, will be getting a 5% raise based off of that, with an estimate right now of $9.6 million. Remembering from last year that the 10% that we got and the formula that the states used didn't quite fund it, we expect that the 5% through the formula won't quite fund it again this year, so we'll have to make a little bit of that up. The current ADM, and this is not 100th day ADM, so I do expect this one to change. But it does show Mesa that we're down about 400 ADM. There are some things that we're still working on. All of the departments throughout Mesa are still getting used to current year funding. So some of the reporting we do just kind of lags a little bit in the reporting, along with the state too. So I don't think it'll be that much once we get closer to the right numbers. Plus the state just published the 100th day numbers after we got this presentation done, so we'll be updating them. Again, that living, breathing document that every time we bring you numbers, you're probably going to look at me and go, how do you keep changing numbers? Well, we change them because the state changes them, and as we've talked with current year funding, ADM changes all the way until July and August. TEI, or what we call Teacher Experience Index, this is basically how more experienced our teachers are versus the state. That has been decreasing the past couple years, and it's going to decrease again next year from the preliminary numbers that we see.
Decrease because we have less experienced teachers like that, or because the state's lowering what they do?
Both. So the state average is slowly creeping up, and we do have teachers that are dropping off. It sounds like Dr. Holmes might want to... Nope, I got it before you needed? Okay. It's a little bit of both. It's a very complicated formula that the state does, and it's not always perfectly accurate based off of our experience. But in reality, yes, the average is going up, and we're not going up as high as the average because we have teachers who are dropping off and hiring those younger teachers, and so it makes it.
Board members, I apologize for the interruption. If you will refresh your Google Doc or your board docs, if you need this presentation, it is now loaded into board docs. All you have to do is refresh.
Thank you, Dr. Conley. And so that estimated loss right now is about $1.3 million. It is estimated because even though we do know the number, it's based off of our ADM, and since we don't know our final ADM number, we won't know the complete loss of it yet. Here's the big one I get to try to explain. Continued reduction of the reduction for DAA. And they tried to get me to change the wording around, but we just couldn't get it, of an estimated additional $4 million. So again, remembering that DAA is our capital, so it can pay for curriculum, furniture, as Dr. Conley mentioned. So during the recession, the state gave us the formula, but didn't give us all the money and cut it. Over the past several years until this year, it was close to 85, 86, 87%. Well, last year, the governor proposed a 5-year phase-in to reduce the reduction. So last year, he reduced it, and we went from approximately 3 million of the 29 million within the formula to approximately 10 million of 29 million within the formula. And as Dr. Conley mentioned just a moment ago, we transferred 4.5 of that over to M&O to help with the classified scholars. It's estimated right now that the next reduction that's in the governor's budget, again, he could excel it, he could not, we're not sure yet, is that we'll gain an additional 4 million. So we'll be at 14 million of the $29 million formula. Okay, hopefully I did that one fairly well there. And then inflation is estimated to be 2%. Which will be about approximately $1.4 million. Inflation is actually estimated at 2.2% right now by the JLBC and the legislature, but 301 says that inflation will be GDP or 2%, whichever is less. So since it's 2.2, it gets capped at 2%. Okay. On the next slide, I'm going to ask for a phone a friend, a little help here, from Dr. Holmes on some of the first couple bullet items.
Thank you, friend. So we know, as the governor, I believe, is widely stated, going back to a little bit less than a year ago, 20% by 2020 for teachers, 10% last year, 5% this year, 5% next year. So it's our belief that that we'll see in the budget dedicated monies of 5% for teachers. So we know that about the budget. So left to discuss and for us to determine is going to be, well, what are we going to do for our other 3 employee groups, our administrators, our supervisors, and our classified employees. And of course, as I have said quite frequently in the past, probably the biggest one is going to be classified salaries, where we're anticipating a need of about $5.7 million to keep up, or I might say, move in the right direction with classified salaries. So I would not say that solves the dilemma that we have with classified wages. It merely keeps us moving in a direction where we aren't getting worse, quite frankly. So we still have a lot of work to do in that area, but it's estimated at about 5.7 this year. We got 26 additional teacher contracts for class size reduction, mostly in K5. K6 actually, and what I'll share with you there is we're not changing our staffing ratios, and we're not looking at huge increases in enrollment, but we are changing our philosophy this year on how we apply our staffing ratios, and the net result of that is we're pushing more contracts out now. And that should have that actually will have the impact of lowering the overall average class size in the district next year, which we think, in consideration of our priorities and supporting our schools, will be welcome at our sites. And then, as we've discussed, a little bit about counselors, just a little bit more detail there. 35 and a half, as Dr. Conley had just mentioned, we're looking at 35 and a half teachers, our department counselors, and our social workers. Approximately half of that out of M&O, and the other out of Title I is where those funding sources are coming from. And before I kick it back to my friend, I'll maybe kick us off on the insurance increase, on other budget impacts. As you know, I spend a lot of time in the world of benefits, and I will tell you our experience last year was
Your time's up.
My time's up? Okay. Meaning that we had a good year in terms of costs. So the translation there is that we would expect that we don't need to have, we should not be looking forward to a large increase in insurance. We would probably look forward to a smaller increase in insurance as compared to the past couple of years. As far as I'm aware, health insurance has increased in cost every year of my entire life. So yeah, we would expect some increase, but I think we're gonna keep it lower this year. So details will be forthcoming on that. Back to you, friend.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Well, as we look at the presentation, Dr. Holmes helped with the first point on the next one, which is just other budget impacts that we're looking at right now that could have an effect. Again, still looking at them. This is forever changing. I know Cabinet's having a lot of discussions on what they want, but we do have the insurance increase, and we'll continue to watch that over the next couple weeks. We have our other purchase services, which includes professional services, electrical, fuel, water, professional development services. We are working right now through the procurement process to find out if any increases are happening and what they might be. Some of those can be known, some of those can't. Fuel is probably one of the most unknown ones because fuel changes every time we order fuel. But some of those other services, purchase services, consulting services that we have. New position requests above and beyond the ones that Dr. Holmes just talked about. HR gets requests all the time, and then Cabinet reviews those and makes decisions on those. And then also where you guys have talked several board meetings is low-cost inclusive preschool. We're still reviewing all those staffing models and determining if there will be any cost to doing that. And if there is cost, where is it coming from? It might not come from M&O. It might be covered by other grants and stuff like that. So we got to work through that still to try to get to that.
Stanley, can I have you revisit the first bullet point, please?
Salary?
Yes.
Staffing salary increases?
Okay, staff salary increase for groups other than certified teachers.
Sure. So this would be for all of our classified staff.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be for our administrators, our classified administrators, and also the 5% that the state gives us for certified staff is actually only certified teachers that sit in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So we have other certified members, employees, like your OTs, your PTs,
Mm-hmm.
your counselors.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look to see what we're going to do on the raising side on that side.
So what I'm understanding you say is that the district is taking care of other groups that have been left behind by the definition of teachers, for example. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And other folks that did not experience the state increase of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I would also mention that last year, even the defined classroom teacher, by the governor's definition, the way the state calculated the 10% was based on a state average, which did not cover our costs for even that group of teachers. Now, it was nominal compared to the overall great windfall of money that we received, but we have had to find other resources for all those additional groups that we're talking about.
Thank you. That's what I was led to understand, and I just want to make sure that all the folks that are listening understand that as well, that we as a district had to pick up those costs to keep great people here at Mesa Public Schools for our kids.
Absolutely, ma'am. Okay. Just real briefly, some items, looking at the state budget and looking at the legislation. This is obviously not a complete list. These are just items that have some dollars attached to them. There's a lot of bills that are going through education, but these are just ones that have some dollars. So the first one is a special ed bill. Currently right now, I thought I hit that. Currently right now there's a bill moving. I know it's had some in the past few days, maybe he's getting stopped a little bit. But just because it's out there, a special education bill that moves some of the Group A weight students, which is your regular ed students, they have a group, regular ed students, and moves some of that money or some of that formula into the Group B weights. Group B weights are most of your special ed weights, along with some K3 extra money that we get and ELL weight that we get, and then all your categories for your SPED students. So back in the 80s, real quick version, back in the 80s, when they created the equalization formula, every regular ed kid wasn't equaled a regular ed kid. They gave us a couple extra. So for K8, you get 1.153. For 912, you get 1.253, with the state saying that there's some nominal things out there that allow it. Well, some of that was some very small SPED weights for gifted and some other items, and we're trying to shift that out of the A weight and into the B weight. And then also they want to add a gifted B weight so that we get some extra money. And then also in that legislation is to fund a survey to try to see if those weights are what they should be. And if we've been around for an experienced amount of time, like I have, those weights haven't moved probably in 18, 20 years. So they're definitely a little bit of outdated. There is a bill that is what's called an opportunity weight. It's added to the formula. It's not put in any of the Group A or Group B weights. It's actually put into a very similar line as the TEI inside the formula. Won't get into all those details. But that opportunity weight is for children that would be in the free and reduced lunch program, or poverty weight, some people have called it. The bill calls it an opportunity weight. But one of the things that's in there, to maybe not try to get into a long discussion this evening about, but part of this is done to try to combat the battle of getting rid of DSEG. So for the 19 school districts throughout Arizona that get DSEG money, when we calculate the opportunity weight, and if we get some, which Mesa would get some if it goes through the way it is, we subtract that off of our DSEG budget. So it's actually neutral to Mesa Unified School District. And that's try to help some of the legislatures down there, that have been at DSEG for quite a while after the Gilbert lawsuit and some other things. So we'll keep you up to date on that. As I mentioned earlier, the reduction of DAA funding, it is supposed to be going by $4 million. Some people have talked to the government maybe about excelling that and giving us more back even faster, because it is flexible money where some of these other ones aren't quite as flexible as that might be. So we'll keep you up to date on that. And then of course the 5% teacher pay raise as part of the governor's 2020 plan. That's kind of really the ones that might get us more money. There are a couple others out there that we're watching and stuff, and then obviously there's a bunch out there that are just general about rules and statutes and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be more than happy to ask any questions that you would like.
I guess to Jenny's question, then, if we were to put that together, what kind of deficit are we looking at to try and fund all of that? As your initial guess, or do you have that pulled?
Right now, with some of the numbers that you see here, and with some of the initiatives that we've talked about but not fully funding them all, we're looking at around $9.7 million. Shortfall, yes, sir.
So that's what we've been spending a lot of time with, is how are we going to cover that? One of them is looking at savings we can have in transportation. And there's a chunk of money there. There's a large chunk of, it is significant. When we look at our private day placement that we've been spending, sending students out of our district, what we can now bring our students back into our district and provide those same services. And we're getting much closer than what that sounds. So there's a lot of communication that we're doing internally. So before broadcasting it out externally, happy to have one-on-one conversations with you and sit down with Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Thompson around those details.
And I would remind the board that the $5.7 million in classified increases that we've been talking about is part of that discussion as well. So it's part of what's driving that deficit.
Part of that 9.7?
Yes.
Yes, correct. 5.7. It's part of that mixture, yeah.
We're grateful for your talent and being able to find money.
Thank you.
You can say that. And I really do have to, he is this whole department with finance is just outstanding, and being able to pick up the phone and saying, can you run the numbers on X, Y, and Z, and in a matter really of minutes being able to have how much money is in what accounts and how much has been spent is it really speaks to the quality of staff that we have in Mesa Public.
Kind of visualize you up there with a metal detector looking for coins, looking between cushions of your next to your desk.
It's pretty close to that. That's probably a very accurate depiction of it. Looking through every little crack and every little box.
It's true.
So,
yes, a giant
very large
and a bake sale.
And Jenny, cinnamon rolls. You do the cinnamon rolls.
I'll make cinnamon rolls. Back to when we talk about counselors, I know we have a group here that's interested in our counselor conversation. Have you talked about, and I think elementary schools is where it's how they'll be. Is that something you can share with us?
I can. We're getting much closer to being final on that. So what we have is our equal model is that every school will receive at least a 0.5 counselor.
I'll look it up. Keep going.
All right. So as
I would ballpark and say a little more than half do have.
Half do not have.
A little more than half
Yes.
of our elementaries have.
Yeah,
at
this
least
is
0.5.
this is a significant increase. Now, depending on enrollment, we did it based on student enrollment. Many schools, I'm going to say many, actually are going to qualify for a full-time counselor. And so part of our goal, first of all, in the world of federal monies, you have to have a very clear staffing model so we don't violate that idea of supplanting, that we're not using current funds to do other things. So when we look at that then is at least a 0.5 in every school, many full-time. And this is a counselor, this is our equal model. When we get into then using our Title I allocation, our free and reduced, our poverty federal monies, many of our schools will qualify for an additional 0.5, and they can choose between a counselor or social worker, depending on what their choice is. There's different job descriptions. There's going to be a different evaluation. There's a lot of differences involved with that. However, it would be the school choice based on their Title I plan. How we're doing that with Title I is that 15% of our Title I school allocations would be swept and then put towards these resources of their schools of having at least a 0.5. Every school has an increase, so there's no schools that are getting taken away from. All schools get an increase of.
And in the time that you said that, I was able to look the number up. This would represent approximately a tripling of the resources. Oops. Nope, doubling, sorry, doubling.
And so when you look at schools and principals and being able to have flexibility with their spending, saying that you have basically, let's just say they have $100,000 in their Title I allocation to be able to use at their school, sweeping 15% of that, $15,000, they still have $85,000 to be able to do at their individual schools. So that's just an example. That's just pulling some information, but many of our schools have a substantial amount that are able to pay for support.
I know today in the PLC refresh, when that was announced, the principals immediately applauded and cheered, and she doesn't get that all that often, so that was a pretty good moment.
Thanks, Elaine.
But how did they react when you said it was because you were taking 15% of their Title I?
I actually had one come up and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're excited. It's a valuable resource. Yep.
Great, good.
And I mean, I can look over to my area, and of course, being honest and transparent, I haven't had any major concerns.
I have a question about finding the counselors, because
Get certified.
no, because counselors get paid less than teachers.
No, they're actually paid. We pay them on the same compensation
Have we
plan.
paid them? In Mesa, we have paid them the same?
We in our
Because they're not considered teachers by the state definition. So again, I'm going back to bullet point number 1. We've had to make up, this community has had to come up and make up the difference to make sure that we have counselors who, because of financial responsibilities, go back to teaching, but our counselors are paid equally to our teachers.
We pay our counselors on the same compensation plan as teachers. And when we make this addition next year, going forward to next year, when the 5% comes again, our gap is going to be larger, because you are correct that they are not classified as a teacher per the definition for which the 5% is based on.
I was in the Senate during that definition of a teacher. It was very interesting. So even more, our community should know that as a community, we are helping make this happen. That this is not solely based in state funding, but this is our community that has come together and said this is important, and is making up the difference so that we can have these counselors. But I guess I still have my original question, which is, are there counselors out there? Because I know some, like ASU, has abandoned its counselor ed program. NAU, U of A, and I believe University of Phoenix still have their programs. Are there counselors out there? Are we going to be able to get some good folks in our
I
classroom?
am always the half full, so the answer is yes. We are going to find them, and Dr. Holmes and his department will be recruiting
I just
heavily.
got a phone call. I have to go.
But really on a little bit lighter note, I think that you saw in the status report that as we're able to make connections across the nation, not just in Arizona, there is a tremendous amount of opportunity, and we may not get all 35.5 from another state, but I think that we have an opportunity to work with other colleges outside of Arizona. And let's face it, this is the time of year to recruit, when they're having the Arctic freeze, or the what did you hit?
Vortex.
Well, yeah, the vortex. So
they've all heard how great education funding is in Arizona. They're knocking
Polar
down our
vortex.
doors.
but we have spring training and 70-degree weather. So yes.
Can I ask one more question? I think it's to you, Superintendent Conley. I'm really excited about having the counselors in the elementary school. Please don't get me wrong, but I'm also worried about more counselors for high school students as well as junior high school students. Is that coming up in your discussions? Are we making maybe some plans that, because I just feel we need those counselors at the secondary level as well. We've had a number of students who have come and told us. So is it in the discussion? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Absolutely. In fact, we started this last week. We've been pulling, first of all, building our equity model for secondary. So as you do that, you start basically looking at what's the enrollment, and let's build that. What does every school get, and then let's put what every school needs based on their student population. And so the counselors are definitely part of that. Ratio. I think also one of the conversations that we continue to talk about is the type of work. First of all, I'm going to call it the marketing of the counselors. I mean, we're hearing clearly of, even when Ms. Williams and I met with our student council students just recently, of, guys, do you know you have counselors? And it was a really eye-opening conversation around what we need to do differently around marketing, that there's people in the high school to be able to help you. Like, some of our students don't even know that they're there, what we currently have.
I think part of the problem is, and I notice this from having been in the district, is that we don't call them counselors anymore. We call them academic advisors. And I was at Academic Decathlon, and we were using the counseling office, which is now the academic advisor's office. So I wonder if maybe And you mentioned
I'm
marketing.
smirking over here. I'm sorry, but we
No.
had this
Yeah.
conversation. Ms. Williams, would you like to comment?
Sure. I'll give you some historical around that. So the idea about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, was to change the job description for our counselors to be more student supportive and not just be the people who change schedules or look at transcripts or write letters of recommendation. So we changed them to advisors when we changed the job description in an attempt to say the old title and system is gone, now do this new task. I will say that they are changing their focus, but the title doesn't match with that focus. So Mike Garcia and Dr. Forlis have come forward and said, what if we go back to counselor? And Cabinet agreed this week that that's a good move. So for next year, letting a cat out of the bag, I'm sorry.
Acting like Dr. Conley.
Yeah. So we will be moving back to the title of counselor. It more aptly fits what we're asking them to do. And Dr. Garcia has created a wonderful job description that is around the ASCA model, best practices for counseling departments. And he will be working with our advisors, current advisors who will now be counselors, to roll that out for next fall.
I've heard a lot of great news this week, but that might be the best. Thank you.
Well, and I wondered about a staffing model that maybe are there part-time classified employees that we can handle, that we can hire, that can take care of some of the registrar responsibilities. So when those kids are lining up for a schedule change, it doesn't need to be a counselor who's helping them. It can be an email or a phone call to a registrar who takes care of it, or a register clerk, instead of backing up our whole counseling department for that.
That real quickly, if we're doing a great job with our 4-year plans, I agree with you. When that becomes stronger, then a clerical person can do it. But the advisement part about what paths a kid needs to take, I do believe a counselor plays a vital role in that. So we'll have to make sure that the other systems are in place so that that can actually happen.
Which is a perfect opportunity to talk about federal funds coming out for Title IV, which is our career and technical education. We did receive extra funds into that department, and so part of that work is to expand down into our elementaries, creating career exploration and pathways. And so part of that, again, is building our ECAP, our plan and career exploration much, much earlier. So over time, this will get better.
I'm kind of thinking out of the box right now, and I'm thinking about our deans that we have on our campuses that are in partnership with our community colleges. That's it, right? Advisors. Advisors? Oh, our NCC advisors. Yes. I'm wondering, do they do any of that work to work with our students for advisement?
They work very closely with our students on advisement. So their role is to help students with their 4-year plan. If they're planning a community college right out of high school, to make sure that they have dual enrollment set up in their high school years so that they are ahead of the game once they reach the community college. They are active in our FAFSA events so that students have the financial wherewithal to attend whatever university or community college they choose to attend. So they are very active in that. They do not change schedules. They do not necessarily write letters of recommendation. Those would be for our high school counselors. But they are involved actively in advisement towards college and community college.
So one of the things that I might add to your original question, just to give you some context, in our, because we do have a focus on adding at the elementaries this year, we currently have 44 counselors across our 6 comprehensive high schools. 44 across our 6 comprehensive high schools. We have 17 and a half across our 54 elementary schools. So that's a part of our thinking is we really need to support our elementary schools the way that we aren't right now. And I will also share that is also in response to what our elementary principals have been repeatedly telling us in the need for those supports. So this is really, a lot of this is in response to that call for additional help.
And from a systematic structure, when we look at the resources that we're getting from the state, had a wonderful opportunity to actually meet our U.S. Surgeon General today at the Capitol with a small round table of superintendents and members of the health department here in Arizona. And it is a continual conversation with the governor around the support that we need to do preventative medicine, preventative education, specifically in our life skills. So when we talk about what are some of the roles and responsibilities of our counselors, it is looking at our preschool through 12th grade life skills curriculum to teach those things around perseverance and grit and responsibility. So good news. I think that there's starting to be a lot of momentum at that level to be able to get us some support.
That is good news. I wondered when you mentioned, Dr. Holmes, the 44 counselors at our 6 comprehensive high schools, how I would think that we also would have a great need for them at our Sharp, Riverview. Do they have a higher than standard ratio at some of our alternatives?
Our supports, I'm going to speak not just to that specific position, but our overall support on those campuses is significantly greater on a per student basis than it is at our gen ed schools.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay, while we are on the item of the budget, fiscal year 2020 budget, we do have one request to speak in regards to the budget, and that is Kathy Zincon. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Oh, by the way, Kathy, you have, it's still the 3-minute, and there will be a warning bell when you reach 2 minutes to let you know you have another minute.
Thanks. Can we start the 3 minutes now? Okay, great. Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Conley, district administration, MPS staff, families, students, and community members. My name is Kathy Zincon, and I am a Mesa Public Schools teacher and an MPS community member. I'm coming to you tonight regarding the budget priorities listed in the budget presentation this evening. I'm concerned that the anticipated 5% raise for educators promised by Governor Ducey and supported by the Arizona legislation is not addressed nor listed as a priority for MPS budgets. However, after Mr. O'Brien's presentation, I see that that has been rectified. I am also concerned that the decompression of wages is not listed as a budgetary priority. These issues have been discussed at MEA and MESPA's meet and confer meetings to provide more compensation equity regarding years of service among our staffs, especially in regards to our classified staff, and how the increase of minimum wage has caused contention with veteran staff and new hires in regard to pay. I would like to see these two issues regarding wage decompression and the 5%, which that's taken care of, included on the list of budgetary priorities. Secondly, I would like to encourage the board to ask more specific budgetary questions regarding the specific amounts of money these budgetary priorities will cost to implement. Investment in these areas are great aspirations. However, the reality of how much it will cost, Ms. Sears, I appreciate your question, need to be a reality that supports these aspirations. In particular, the investment in pre-K program changes need to have real numbers attached to them before agreeing to move forward. To my point, I still believe that the repurposing of Jordan Center for Early Education into a behavioral schools and the conversion of 15+ classrooms into state licensed preschool classrooms may not be cost effective as it has been suggested. I have not seen the numbers. I hope that you have, and it sounds to me like Dr. Conley is willing to address that with you one-on-one. I would like to see those happen. Would like to see those conversations happen, and I hope you will report back to the community. I hope that you have asked for those numbers, that you will ask for those numbers, and will continue to ask the hard budgetary questions regarding all changes that are happening and that will happen in the future of MPS. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate your comments. Okay, we are now on item 11B, preview.
Madam President.
Oh, I apologize.
No, I was going to just take the opportunity to talk about she had mentioned decompression.
Yes, please.
And I just wanted to make sure that earlier in the conversation, I had indicated we're going to need about a minimum of $5.7 million for classified salaries. That is part of the discussions that we've had in MESPA, and Frank Hunter's out in the crowd here. So he's been a part of those discussions, and that's all tied to that decompression discussion. So we haven't, I don't know that we've said the word decompression specifically, but I know you've heard me in the refrain over and over and over again. This whole conversation about decompression is roughly a $29 million problem. And so we had put significant dollars towards raises, almost 5 times what we did the prior year for this year. And we're looking at an increased amount this year, and it's all aimed at that discussion about classified salaries, which is inextricably tied to decompression. It is just, I will tell you, I would love for us to figure out how to do more, but it would cause us to be further red, if you will.
Madam President, I would also mention that as the board's aware, but for the community's education, as we walk through this process, all numbers for every impact to the budget will become completely transparent and shared with the community and you as we walk through. We're just in such an early stage, as Mr. O'Brien mentioned, that the numbers are changing constantly, and we're trying to give you an idea of what we're up against first before we start diving into the numbers. But as you know, we will walk through those numbers for several months to come as we walk towards the end of the budget process, hopefully in May or June.
I would also add, as we do every year.
Yes.
Make sure I don't cut anyone off, or so if there are any other comments or anything. Okay, so now we'll move on to 11B, preview of I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Now we're on C.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Discussion on proposed override.
Madam President, members of the governing board, again, we have the override timeline here in front of you. I would suggest that, and there is an updated version we'll provide you later, but the call for election recommendation, I think, is moving more to an April-May time frame. I think it would be better for us to continue to educate our staff as well as bring these issues that we're discussing this evening forward until you make that recommendation as it fits into that timeline. So I would suggest to you that portion of this recommendation is probably going to change, and we're probably looking more at a May time frame for the call for election. But as you've seen in every board meeting and in many opportunities, we are meeting with staff and educating both publicly and internally. In my area, we've had meetings with operations staff, custodial staff, directors are having discussion, educating, making sure our classified are educated about the issue of the override and really understanding the impact to them and to the overall system of Mesa Public. We've also had meetings in transportation. I know food services planning meetings, so that'll be an ongoing education process just to really make sure that all of our staff is informed as we continue to discuss this issue going forward.
Today, Dr. Conley presented a map which showed where the override passed in our community and where it failed. I liked that map. I was wondering if we could all get a copy of it.
I will add that to the status update for this Friday, and then we can review it at our next board meeting as well.
And then another item that I wanted to mention, I was at the State of the City last week now. It was last week, and Dr. Lesser was there, Helen Hollins was there, and one other board member was there. Marcy, you were there, you just weren't at our table, and Kiana was there. And the presentation every year that they do for the last 3 years that I've attended the State of the City is very uplifting. It makes you feel like great things are happening in Mesa. You kind of get re-energized about the different things that are going to happen in the next year and what has happened in the last year and where Mesa is going. It's a great event. I always enjoy it. It's entertaining, but it helps you to appreciate the city you live in. And I mentioned to Dr. Lesser and Helen, they both have disappeared, but that it would be really great if Mesa Schools did some kind of a presentation in some fashion to create the same energy about Mesa Public Schools that the mayor has done for the city of Mesa. And I know people feel that energy towards their own school, the individual activities that they have, but I would like to think outside of the box a little bit about how we can do a presentation and invite community members to say, come and see what our schools are all about. We are looking at charter schools that sometimes take some of our students, and I think we offer much better programs than charter schools, much better education, and we need to promote that more in the community, not just in our schools. So I would really enjoy expanding on this a little bit and doing a little bit of research on what that would take and how much resources that would involve for the district, because I know time is a resource as well as money. So I wonder if anyone else would have any comments on that or have any feelings about that as well.
We went to the Arizona City Managers Conference in Sedona, tough duty. And one of the things that was mentioned was how city managers can engage their community. And it gave me some ideas which I gave to you before our study session. And I think it's because I went to that conference and I saw so many great AVID programs that I went, showcase. Neighborhood school showcases designed by the neighborhood, by the community, within that school's culture that will bring the community to that nucleus called the community school. And have I know that teachers out there don't want to hear this, or even the classified staff wouldn't want to hear it either, but it's your school. Show it off. And maybe we could do some funding in that respect. It's amazing what teachers can do with a few $100.
I think
we're resourceful. We know how to do this. And why wouldn't we create literally a magnet to our neighborhoods and emphasize not only the engagement of our community, but also support for the override?
I think highlighting the district is producing great videos that highlight a lot of great programs at our schools. And I think making sure those are easily found and seen on our website and visible so that somebody's casually looking to see, but then figuring out a way to highlight some of those same footage that we already have that we gathered as we make these into a This Is Mesa Public Schools kind of thing would be, we're already doing it in some respects, and we're already highlighting some of the great programs at our neighborhood schools, and using those and making those more prevalent might be, or accessible.
I think we have some of the homework already done for a project like that because of all those videos. They're great. Yeah.
I believe that I like both proposals we have on the table, and as Helen just walked in, we're creating more amazing work that she does. But I can't help but say what I always say is having a digital campaign about it. Everything's a campaign, from a 3-year-old who wants another cookie to somebody running for governor. It's the same type of things. We've created all of this. We produce an amazing product, and our students that go off and do just incredible things. Now we have videos that showcase taking some of our resources and what we do to actually put it in a campaign and get it out there. And, just digital campaigns save a lot of money overall. And I also totally 100% support the showcases. As Marcy was talking about it, that's we're talking about building community, reaching community, touching, being out there. If we listen, hear, and being that touching and connecting, it's all about doing that, and that's a greater way to do that, where there's not in breaking down those barriers of things feeling insulated for us between administration and staff and community, just being all together as one big happy family with many different communities, and then coming together as a whole entire. So I see the whole as well as all the different communities. So I'm in agreement with both. So yes, I would like to see a digital campaign and these showcases.
I envision the Mesa High School marching band marching through Fellowship Square over by Jefferson Elementary School. There are all those seniors that live there and would absolutely love it, and it would draw attention to what's going on in their community. And then I said, have a seniors day at Jefferson Elementary right across the street. And those kinds of ways of pulling in seniors who are strong voters in these mail-in ballots. So anyway, those are some of our, because we don't have to do it. It's so easy to come up with these ideas. We just know how talented you are, Helen. It's a compliment. It's a team. Yeah, I know. Anything else on that?
On which one, the override or on the campaign?
It's the same.
Okay. I would like to know, we probably should have a discussion on deciding on as a board. Are we going 10%, 15%? Is the 15 already foregone? I don't think we've discussed it as a board, and make that decision. Then when we publicly call for it, I guess that can be moved. But
yeah, it absolutely will be part of the resolution, but we should have conversation prior to, so that we're all on the same page as we move forward. So we'll have to bring that back on a future agenda for discussion.
We're going to move on to item number 12, and I know that information has been shared for those who have come to speak, and I just wanted to let you know that we did have a discussion in our study session. It was on the study session as well as the regular meeting session, and I believe I can say, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we all came to the conclusion that we wanted to support a resolution, but we couldn't come to a conclusion of the wording on the resolution. So that's why we pulled it. So I wanted to let you know that, if you didn't already know that from your conversation. But at this time, and you've had two great groups come and talk to us and spend some good time here, I think you have the support. In fact, I know you have the support, not just from the board, but from the cabinet who sits here, who's expressed their support. The superintendent of Mesa Public Schools is very much in support. We are meeting with community groups. We are making a lot of steps and moving. We were already doing that, but we have appreciated your words, and I know that you want to continue to speak about this. I want you to be, and we don't want to turn you away. You've come here, you've spent the evening waiting, and I don't think it would be respectful to you if we turned you away. But I would ask that you keep in mind it is late. It is a school night for some of you, probably. And since we have heard much of what you probably are going to talk to us tonight, if you would mind, we would welcome you to come, but also be respectful of the time as you come up, and come one at a time. Does that sound good to you? Okay, I appreciate that. All right, then we will start, and I will read, and please forgive me if I make any mistakes with your name. It's not my intention to do that. So, oh, Good point, Kiana. And you may also waive if you feel like what you were going to say has already been said, you can certainly tell us, it's okay, I don't need to go up. We welcome that as well, okay? So Charlie Safi? All right, Charlie, you can tell me how you pronounce your last name when you get up there. Well, then I feel much better.
All right. Hello. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you guys tonight. I know it's late and school night, but I know most of my friends who are going to talk also are going to focus more on the emotional aspect of why counselors are important to us and why they're integral to the secondary school experience, as well as what we need in terms of emotional support, more so than just academics. So I'm going to talk about a little bit more of the future elements, as well as just comment on maybe some things that I heard you guys talking about, referring to counselors a little bit earlier. So my main point that I came up here originally to talk about is that I go to Westwood High School, and earlier today I was talking with my principal just outside a few hours ago, and he was telling me how like the governor and a few other very important people like the mayor came to my school and toured the CTE programs. And the CTE programs at my school are pretty cool, not to toot my school's horn, but toot toot. And so everyone was asking, where did you hear about these programs? And from what my principal told me, the vast majority of the students said, oh, my counselor came into my classroom last year and talked about it. So this brings up the importance that counselors are not just here for emotional support, which is one of their primary roles. They're not just here for changing schedules. They're here to ensure a future for our students, because you are raising the next generation in our elementary schools, in your middle schools, in your high schools, and especially in high schools and even some middle schools. Counselors are integral to electives and creating this sort of driving force for the different programs that aren't necessarily thought of, like the Future Farmers of America or automotive or welding, that are integral to how our world works but aren't necessarily covered in a college degree in a regular classroom. But then also, that's my main point, but sorry, this is a little bit sloppy. It was just you guys saw or mentioned some stuff that I really wanted to comment on. And you guys are talking about the importance of counselors in elementary schools. And while I am a high school student, and it's been forever since I've been in elementary, I just really want to comment on how important counselors are for all grade levels, and especially in elementary schools, because as you said, there were very few spread across the many, many elementary schools, and that's your next goal. And I believe it's important because a child is in their formative years in elementary school, and I'm sure you already know, but I did a 4,000-word essay on the neurobiology of childhood and how support in those early years can affect how a child grows, and that can affect the rest of their life. So I really want to stress the importance of counselors, and thus I ask you to please go further into your decision, and thank you again for the support you've shown so far and your commitment to working with us. So please and thank you for supporting and looking at our resolution. Thank you.
Audrey Coleman.
Good evening. First of all, we thank Mesa Public Schools and our request that they stand with us in acknowledging that mental health is an important aspect of school safety. As a part of March for Our Lives, we have exemplified our demands to our legislator this session through our entirely student-written bill, HB 2597. This bill is about mental health in schools, asking that each school district make a school safety plan that outlines how schools respond to students in crisis. These plans will help make the resources that schools already have more effective. It also connects schools to outside resources that students can use when counselors are unavailable to provide long-term care. It states that mental health must be included in discussions on school safety, prioritizing preventative over reactionary measures when speaking about school safety. Mobilizing our cause, this past Wednesday, we brought 100 students to engage in a lobby day where we lobbied for a bill. We met with 29 representatives to advocate for a bill and help the legislature understand why we're addressing mental health as a part of school safety. Building this from the grassroots level to advance our overall support, our school board resolutions have passed in Campo Verde, Catalina Foothills, Tempe, Paradise Valley, Phoenix Union, Alhambra Elementary School, and hopefully soon we can add you to that list. This bill will be heard in the Education Committee hearing on February 18th, and we hope that we can count on your support. Thank you.
Okay, it's not so much hopefully I'm reading this correctly. It looks like it's a J, Jarman Gambera. Okay, thank you. Libby Nelsich. Did I get it right on the end? Okay, but no, you need to tell me how you pronounce it. Nelsh?
I'm Libby Nelch.
Nelsh.
And I'm a retired school psychologist. I worked in Mesa from 2001 until 2018. I was actually here a year ago being honored by my school, so it's kind of... I did come with some prepared things, but I'm not going to read it because I'm so excited at your commitment to increasing the number of school counselors. You know, as a school psychologist, I felt so much stress because I saw so many needs that I knew what to do about, but I couldn't do it because there's just only one of me. And I worked with a school counselor. You know, we both worked very hard, but we weren't enough to meet the needs of the students. And I know the behavior problems we were dealing with do affect how safe other kids feel. So I really, I came to speak in support of these courageous youth, who are really standing up for the whole idea that they need to feel safe at school. And so I'm really thankful that you guys are making it a priority, and I understand the funding needs, and I'll be doing what I can to help with that as well.
Yes, thank you.
But anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time. And Kathleen Ron.
I'm a community member, a retired school psychologist, member of the curriculum committee, and also a past president of the Arizona Association of School Psychologists. And I too was here 3 weeks ago and heard the moving talks of our students giving specific examples of what's going on in the schools and the needs that are there. I am very much thankful to Superintendent Conley and the board for working on this resolution, because I think your equity model is moving in the right direction. I think we have so many needs. I think the fact that the more we can put into preventative resources by having more counselors that can do screenings to identify mental health problems early, then your huge budget item of those private placements are going to go down as we address that over time. So as part of our profession is part of the mental health team that's in the schools, and it just is going to make the education, the academic achievement more positive. It's going to be able to allow teachers more time to teach rather than spending time with behavior problems that take away. So I think it's really, really in the right direction. And I think as big as our Mesa Public Schools are, for the resolution to pass here, to send a message to our legislature how important it is that we address mental health as part of school safety is really, really important. And I, like Libby, will be glad to help us pass this override.
Thank you. We appreciate that a lot. And I believe our final speaker is Angela. And I didn't even attempt your last name. I apologize.
It's Telliani.
Telliani.
Angela Telliani, yeah.
Beautiful name.
Thank you. Since August of this year, we've had 33 suicides in the East Valley among high school students. The most recent being my daughter's best friend, and we buried her on Saturday. Mountain View lost one of the very best students that we had. It has ripped apart not only my family, but her family and all the other families that loved her dearly. I agree that school counselors are important. What's happening right now is our guidance counselors are very busy doing what they do best, which is guiding our children in making future decisions for their future at MCC or ASU or wherever they choose to go. Some of our students have a bummy day, and they can go in and talk to their guidance counselor and sit down with them and say, I've kind of had a crummy day. They can help them through it, and they get on. Some of our students need a full-time professional therapist on campus that they can go in and speak with. One suicide is too many, and 33 is absolutely, it's heartbreaking that 33 other families have had to go through what all of us have had to go through this last week. I would ask that before you give all of the funding away to different schools, I would ask that you speak with the youth of the secondary schools, come to the high schools, talk to our youth, not just the administrators, but talk to the youth, find out what they're going through and what they need. Why aren't they going to their counselors for advice and for help? Why aren't they going to some of these other places for advice and for help? Just because the help is there in a counselor setting doesn't mean the children always trust that counselor. If they have been reprimanded in the past, they're not going to go to that counselor and ask for help with a family matter or with other things that are going on in their life. I would ask that you please just take the time and get to know these kids, get to know what they're really going through right now. It's a totally different world out there. I have multiple children come to my home all the time. My door is always open, always. And I have hundreds of kids come through. I also substitute teach at the seminary building across the street. And kids deal with stuff that we cannot even fathom. And so I just ask that you please take that into consideration before you allocate different counselors to specific schools and funding. Thank you.
Angela, thank you for coming. That was a strong and brave thing to do, and we appreciate your words. It's nice to hear from you. I heard that you went to the school on the following Monday and had an opportunity to speak to people there, and I was so impressed. You must have a very great family, and it is, I know, a huge loss to you, and we pray for you. I pray for you and your family, and appreciate you being here tonight. Okay, with that, we'll go with item number 13.
Move that we adjourn our meeting.
Aye.
Aye.